So now we're going to have a look at some of the tooling from a hands-on perspective that's offered by the platform. And to do this, we're going to look at a common scenario. So we see this going into many organizations from an integration perspective, whereby some customer service agent has a need to source the data from multiple entities from multiple different systems. So then, as a customer services agent, I want to be able to manage customer contact details, view customer order information, have information on the products that we sell, and review customers' delivery information. So that I've got full visibility into our end-to-end fulfillment process to be able to effectively handle customer queries when they contact me via the contact center. But much of this information needs to be sourced from multiple different systems, as evident from the diagram. So for example, you would have an e-commerce system such as Magento, or an order management system such as NetSuite. And so there's some form of integration that is required between each of these systems. And this is really where MuleSoft excels. So in true Blue Peter fashion, here's the scenario we prepared earlier. In line with my Lord of the Rings theme, our customer, a certain Mr. Frodo Baggins, has used the e-commerce platform to order some standard questing items over the web. His customer contact details is mastered in Salesforce, while the order management system handles the processing of his order, so the e-commerce platform leverages MuleSoft APIs to create customers and orders in these systems respectively. To enable front and back office visibility of order management processes, a MuleSoft integration application synchronizes key order data between the OMS and Salesforce. This is a bidirectional sync. And the orders are shipped to customers and using a third-party delivery provider. And the delivery tracking statuses of the order shipment is exposed for on-demand queries using a MuleSoft OData-based API. And finally, all product codes are periodically migrated to Salesforce using Salesforce's bulk APIs and the MuleSoft connector. But unfortunately, Mr. Frodo's questing items have not yet arrived. And this is where our customer service agent can pick up the story. Let's come out of full screen mode. So I'm going to switch into Salesforce now to take over this. And what I'm going to do is demonstrate how we deal with this customer's requirement, and then drill down into what this looks like from an operational perspective on MuleSoft's platform, and then what it looks like from a development perspective in Anypoint Studio for each one of these assets. So first of all, I need to find the contact, a certain Mr. Frodo Baggins. So we can go in and find Frodo. And then I need to obviously drill down and look at his order to understand why he's not received his items. And we can see that we've got an order status of complete. This has already been synchronized by our order management system. So I'm going to go in and click on this and look at the details of this order to see, because it's telling me it's complete. And here I can see some of the line items of the order. And I can also see these contact details, and there's a shipping ID as well. So this is being pulled in dynamically based on the tracking API from the delivery provider. So when I click this and follow this, it's going to go and retrieve the order details from our order tracking API. So this is an external object, as I say, that's not hosted on Salesforce, but appears as an object within Salesforce through the virtue of Salesforce Lightning Connect and the OData API. And so looking at this address here, I can see that the address is the destination address. There's something incorrect in it because there was a note that they were unable to deliver the parcel to Mr. Frodo, so it's been returned to sender. The address wasn't found. and it has a status of returned. So what we need to do is go and update the contact details with a new address so that we can make sure that the parcel finds its way, and that will then be synchronized, and we will need to create a new order because obviously this order has been returned. So I'm just going to return to our contact and just change the address here so we can see this. Save that record. Okay, so in the background, we've got MuleSoft monitoring the contact details. So that will be synchronizing that with the order management system when I actually place the order. So let me go and find the orders. So orders, let's create a new order here. So I'm just, for the purposes of the demo, these fields, I'm just changing these fields to ones that are pre-populated. Okay, so that's fine. I need to go and get, so it's already discovered that it's Frodo. I just need to go and get some line items for me for the product to recreate the order. Okay, put them in. Just add the customer's email. Oops, I lost my mouse. Begins at outlook.com. Okay. Just check the details we've got up here. If I've missed, I think I need to add the start date here. So we'll put the order date here. And add in the order date. Okay. And you can see that at the moment we've got no shipments or any external order number. Oh yes, of course, it needs a price. It's got a special deal. So if we save that, we'll see that the order was created. So we'll go through and have a look at this order. So we can see that the order status is new. And then what's actually happening here is that the order is now being sent across to the order management system through virtue of Mule. And then that order will be enacted upon and obviously dispatched to the shipping provider. And we'll see that the order gets updated and changes state. And we're able to then query the real-time progress. So at the moment, we can now see that the order status is in progress. So this means it's been received by our logistics center. They're obviously in the packing process, packing the order. And then at some point, it'll be dispatched by the courier, and we will be able to go and reference a shipment. So we can see that we've got our external order number here. But if I refresh again, fingers crossed, we'll have we'll see that the order details has changed. It's still in progress, so I'm just waiting for it to go through, and we'll have a new shipping ID. While we look at that, I will go into the platform and show you from a runtime perspective how that's working. At least you know we're not faking it. So what we can see here is the runtime manager view, the operational view of all the applications that we have deployed. And these mirror pretty much the diagram that I showed you from the slides. So we've got a customers API, which our e-commerce platform that I'm simulating using Postmon is using. And We've also got an orders API, which again, the e-commerce platform is using. And then we've got our demo SFDC Mule synchronization app. And then we've got our SFDC OData API, which is what is being used to interact and interrogate the tracking provider's system for the latest status. I'm being told that the package has been shipped now, so just for posterity, we'll go back and check out the order details. Oh, and we can see that it is indeed completed, and we do have a shipment now. So now when I go and look at these shipment details, we can see that the shipment has correctly got the destination address that we added to the contact, and it is reporting the dispatched, and obviously we're waiting for it to be delivered and see who signs it in the delivery note. So if I go into one of the applications here, we can see a general reporting dashboard. These are kind of runtime metrics that will tell us, how many messages have been processed. So you can see that during the last couple of days, we've been quite busy processing various orders for the party from Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, and CPU metrics and memory. And then if we go through into our logs, we can see the definitions of the jobs that have been executing here, and seeing whether it finds records and what have you. So really, from this perspective, this is the runtime plane where we have visibility into the applications that are running. But if I want to go and have a look at the more details around the API calls, then I can switch perspectives to the API management perspective, and I can drill down onto those APIs to have a look at how it's been responding and how the API has been behaving. And also on this API, we have policies applied, which ensures that the APIs are protected, so only Salesforce can call the APIs, and that when it's Salesforce invoking it, we know that it's Salesforce that's calling it. We can also set up alerts. So if we wanted to get warnings on any policy validation violations or any response times that are starting to exceed SLAs, we would get notifications around those. Furthermore, we can also see this API in Exchange. Actually, I didn't want to look at this one. I want to have a look. Let's go back to API Manager. If I go back to, where is it? The OData one, have a look at that one. If we go in and have a look in Exchange in here, we can find how the API is described, and such that it's very easy for people to come in and get up to speed with the API and learn how to use it and understand when was it last released, how to get support, and the basic behaviors of the API. So that's really kind of a brief overview of some of the operational and API management and publication capabilities around the APIs that have been created. Now we'll drill into what they look like from a development and design time perspective. So if I open up the project, so this is the Anypoint Studio. It'd be very familiar to those of you that are used to working with any Java or Eclipse-based IDE. Projects are listed on the left-hand side, and then under the project, we can find our Mule flows, which are graphical orientated in nature. You're presented with a canvas on which you can drag and drop components. You can see over here, we have a list of the common connectors that are available. And typically, we'll create, for an API, there'll be a HTTP endpoint, which is a listener for how the traffic comes in. And this will be configured with a bunch of properties. And then we have an API kit router that is described via a RAML configuration, which is the definition of our API. And for the OData, it's this OData definition, which gets converted into a RAML definition for us by MuleSoft. And this corresponds to then the flows which provide the implementation of that API. So for OData, you can see that what we're doing is we're effectively querying a database, and this database is being, the query to the database is being generated via DataWeave, and we're using the tracking number that is automatically being substituted via Mule's RAML parser. So if I go in and have a look at the synchronization project, we'll be able to see how we're using the Salesforce connector and some of the other features of Mule to help with the synchronization of data. So whether we're synchronizing from Salesforce or whether we're synchronizing from the database, we're effectively using the same mechanism. We're using a feature in Mule called the Watermark Feature. And this Watermark Feature is effectively has a threshold, which is how it determines when new data has appeared or data has changed in the target system. And it's doing that based on a poll scope. And we're using the Salesforce connector and using the Salesforce query language to actually go and query for changes in the order. Once we receive those changes, we're then creating a batch job that's going and executing the transformation and the transfer of the data to the order management system. And similarly, we're adopting the same process and the same approach with the order management system, except it's just we're using a database connectivity as opposed to Salesforce connectivity. If I drill down further into the flows that are responsible for that, you can see how we're actually capturing the Salesforce contact details. And you can see how the Salesforce connector is actually exposing to the developer at development time the objects that are available in Salesforce and the fields that are available against the selected objects, which again lends itself to the productivity and enhancements that we're referring to by using a connector and not having to clearly understand the interaction model with Salesforce. And was okay. And then just going back to here, the Salesforce connector also supports the streaming API. Unfortunately, we were unable to make this part of the demo because orders in the Salesforce object are not part of are not supported for the streaming API. So we're unable to stream orders. So that's why we took this polling approach. Polling and query approach to understand the changes in the data. And lastly, just one more aspect of the implementation that's in place here. So we're also using Salesforce's bulk API to create batch jobs, create batches within those jobs and close the jobs, which is ideal for large data sets such as product data that needs to be updated in a periodic basis.